Everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Yinka. If you're new to this channel, please kindly take a moment to subscribe if you have not subscribed, and to my old subscriber, you're all welcome back. So today we're going to be making a wrap dress. So this is a crepe fabric and I'm going to be using 5 yards, and you need your matching thread and bias, and that's basically all you need for the tutorial today. Okay, you're going to be needing your full gown length, or whichever length you want your gown to stop. Okay, you need your waist length, and then you need your bust circumference measurements, your waist circumference measurements, and then you need your shoulder measurement, and then the length you want for your sleeve. Yeah, basically that's all you need for the tutorial. Basically that's just the few measurements you're going to be needing for this tutorial. So let's get started. So I'm going to be drafting the upper bodice first, but at first I will be drafting the back. So first I'll fold my fabric into 2. My fabric is folded into 2 and I'm drafting the back bodice first. So this place is on fold. Okay, so I'll rule my guideline to have a starting point. Then I'm going to take my length measurement. So first I'll measure the length of my armhole. My waist length is 17, so I'll measure 17 with ½ inch seam allowance. Then I will extend these lines. So this is my guideline, which is going to be my shoulder. This is the length of my armhole, which is my chest line, and this is my waist length, and then ½ inch seam allowance. So the next thing is to measure my shoulder at the guideline. So my shoulder is 16 divided by 2, that will be 8 inches. I'm going to put it here. Then I'll rule it straight to the chest line. Then I'll come to this point here. I'll measure 3 inches inward this way. Then I'll come to the tip of the shoulder. I'll measure 1 inch downward. Then I'll connect these points together. Then I'll add ½ inch seam allowance to this line. Then I'll just finish the armhole by just placing my cuff, touching this line and also touching this line like this, and I'll get my armhole cuff. Okay, like this. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to input my circumference measurement. So on my chest line, I'm going to input my bust circumference divided by 4. My bust is 40 divided by 4, that will be 10. I'll measure the 10. Then I'll add by seam allowance. I'm using 1 inch seam allowance. Then I'll come to the waistline. I will input my waist circumference measurements divided by 4. My waist is 32 divided by 4, that will be 8 inches. Then I'll add 1 inch seam allowance. Note there will be no dart. And I'll connect the points together. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to input my neckline. So you can decide the neck width you want, but since it's a wrap dress, it should not be too wide. I'm going to be using 3½ inches for my neck width. So I'll measure the 3½ like this. Then this is the back, like I said earlier. So I would like my neck depth to be 2 inches. Then I'll connect the points together. Then I'll cut this out. So this is the back. Can you see? I'm still going to be slanting the center back by coming up here by ½ inch and then slanting it back. But we are going to be doing that later when we are done using this to cut out the front, because we are going to be using this to cut out the front. So let's do that. So I'll place another fabric into 2 folds. So my fabric is folded into 2. We are going to be cutting the front, so my fabric is folded into 2 like this. All right, so the first step is for you to measure inward, your waist circumference measurement divided by 4. My waist circumference is 32 divided by 4. That will be 8 inches. So I'll measure 8 inches and I'll rule it straight. This extension is the overlap that we're going to be wrapping around our body. Because we want it to wrap around very well, that's why we are extending it by quarter of our waist circumference. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place my back on it. So you align the center back with this line. This line that is here, you align the center back with it this way. Can you see? Then the next thing now is for me to cut this out exactly the way it is, like this. So I'm going to be cutting this out, and then I'll cut out the shape of the back. Okay, so this is done. The next thing now is to draw out the front neckline. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to note where your neck width stop here. Just use your chalk to note it like this. Then you lift it up a bit like this. Then you are going to use your ruler. You connect from this neck width to this extension here, this way. So can you see? So the next thing you have to do now is to cut this off. All right, so you cut this extension off. Can you see? So you no longer need this. You can discard this. Can you see? This is how it is. So you can remove the back so that you can reshape the front armhole. So I will locate the center of my armhole this way. Then at that point, I'll just come in by ½ inch. Then I'll reconnect this way. If you don't have this French cuff, please just try and get one. It will make your life a lot easier. So I can trim this off. This is the front armhole. So the front is ready. Front is ready. Okay, so like I said earlier, we are going to be doing a little modification to the center back. So this is my back. On the waistline here, I'll come up by ½ inch. ½ inch. ½ inch line is already there. So I'll just slant it to the side seam like this. Then I'll cut it off. So this is the back. The back is ready. So the next thing you are going to do now is to place front and back together. Place the front and back together this way. You join together at the shoulder with ½ inch. You do the same thing to the second side. Join the shoulder together with ½ inch. Front and back together on the shoulder. So match one side of the front to the back this way, and you join together at the shoulder with ½ inch allowance. One side done, you do the second side. Right side to right side. Join with ½ inch at the shoulder. Do is to attach the sleeve to the armhole. To do now is to close the side with 1 inch, because I added 1 inch seam allowance. But then you need to note, because it's going to be having a belt at the two sides of the wings. So you need to leave an opening at the side seam where you'll be able to pass the belt through to the back when you are tying it. Okay, so from the hem line on one side, and I'm going to be doing that at the right hand side, I'll go up by 1 inch, then I'll measure 2 inches upward, or 1.5. So I'll take back to the sewing machine now. I'll close the side with 1 inch. When I get to this my mark, I'll backstitch and I will jump this 1.5 inches space. Okay, then I will stitch close all the way to the hem with the same 1 inch that I'm stitching the side with. But the other side, I'm going to close it with 1 inch all through to the hem line. Hope it's clear. 1 inch seam allowance. So when I get to where my mark is, I'll backstitch. Then I'll jump down 1.5 inch points and I'll stitch the rest with the same 1 inch that I'm sewing with. So I'll backstitch again and sew to the hem line. Okay, so we are done. So this is the opening here. Can you see? This is the opening. This is where our belt will be passing through. So I'll go ahead, I'll weave the side of my dress. So that point where I left the opening, can you see? I'll just open my seam allowance like this, and then I'll just make a stitch here and also here. I'm done closing the side. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure my waistline. So I'll open my fabric like this. I'll open the bodice like this. Can you see? So I'll measure from one side of the waistline, starting from the beginning here. I'll measure all the way to the second side. Whatever I have, that is the circumference I'm going to be using to cut out the flay that I'm going to be attaching to the bottom part here. So I'll just measure round. Open your waistline and measure, starting from one side like this. Measure all the way to the second side. Like this. Okay, so altogether here I have 48 inches. 48 inches. So that 48 is the circumference measurement that I will be using for the waistline when cutting out the flay that I'm going to be attaching to it. Okay, so that 48 inches, I'm going to add 2 inches to it to make it 50, because you need some allowance for folding the edges, the two edges of the flay. Okay, so I'm going to divide the 50 inches by 3.14. that is the formula for calculating an half circle, because it's going to be an half circle, not a full circle, but an half circle. So that's 50 inches. I'm going to divide it by 3.14. then whatever I get, that's what I'm going to be using as my radius. Okay, 50 divided by 3.14, that gives me 15.9. so I'm going to subtract ½ inch from it. That's the same allowance for joining it together. So minus 0.5, that's going to be 15.4. so my radius is 15.4. So to determine the amount of fabric you're going to be needing to cut out the flay, you need to first subtract your waist length from your total gown length. My full gown length is 60 inches. If I subtract 17 from it, that's going to remain 43 inches. So the remaining length of my gown is 43 inches. So this 43 inches, I'm going to add my seam allowance to it. I'm going to be adding allowance of 1.5 to it. So that's going to be 44.5. then, like I said, to determine the amount of fabric you're going to be needing, this 44.5, I'm going to add my radius to it. My radius is 15.4, let's just say 15 and a half, right? So 15 and a half plus the remaining length of my gown, which we just calculated to be 44.5, okay, that's going to be 60 inches. So I need that 60 inches 2 times, okay? So I will measure from my fabric, I'll measure 60 inches 2 times from my fabric, okay? This is 60 inches, then another 60 inches. Now cut this out. So I've cut out the 60 inches 2 times. So the next thing I'm going to do is to fold it into 2 like this way. Fold it into 2, then you place it on your table like this. So the next thing is to fold it over again like this, diagonally into 4. You fold it diagonally into 4, the way you've seen me do here, okay? So this part here is unfold, this other side, one side is unfold, and then the remaining 2 is open. Can you see? The first thing is for me to rotate my radius, which is 15.4. I'll rotate my radius like this. I'll connect it together. So this is the waist circumference, okay? So the next thing now is to measure from here. You just measure down the remaining length of your gown, which is, in my own case, is 44 and a half, which is exactly what is here. That is exactly what is left here. So come back to the tip. From the tip here all the way to where your measurement is here, whatever it is, you are going to be rotating it, okay? So mine is 60 inches, so I'm going to be rotating the 60 inches. 60 inches. So I'm going to be cutting this out. This is the part of my gown, and I'm going to be hemming the open edges here. I'll hem it by just folding it this way. Fold once and then you fold it again, and you make your stitch all the way down. You repeat the same thing to the second side here. I've cut out belts that I'm going to be attaching to the 2 sides of the upper bodice. So the width of my belt 6 inches, so I'm going to be folding it in, and the length is twice my waist circumference, okay? So the next thing you have to do to the belt is for you to just fold it into 2 this way. You fold it into 2 like this, and then you stitch here with 1/2 inch, and then you stitch the side close all the way to the end with 1/2 inch, and then you repeat the same thing into the second belt. Done with my belt. So the next thing now is to attach our belt. So this is the front. This is the front, okay? This is the 2 fronts. So from the hem line of the front, you go up, you know, this slanted side, you go up by 1 inch, you mark it, and then you place one of your belt on it, right side to right side, okay? Right side of the belt will be facing the right side of the bodice, and then you just stitch the belt on it this way. You also do the same thing to the second side of the belt. You place it 1 inch above the hem line here, okay? Then you stitch together. So the next thing now is to pipe the neckline. So starting from the waistline in front, starting from this point, you're going to place your bias Your bias will be facing the right side, starting from the M line here. You pipe the neckline with your bias all the way to the back and then back to the other side of the front like this, okay? So let's do that. So can you see? So the next thing is to turn the bias to the wrong side and then you top stitch. When you're top stitching, you flip your belt out of the way like this. Can you see? So that you can just top stitch like this. So I'm folding the two sides of my flay. So I'll be hemming the bottom part of the flay. I've hemmed the bottom part of my flay as well as the two sides. Can you see? I used the same allowance I added. I'm done with the upper part as well. So the next thing we have to do now is to attach the bottom part to the upper bodies. So just do it this way. Open it up like this. This is the right side that is facing up. And then you mash up the waist circumference of the flay with the waist circumference of the upper bodies. Right side to right side. You start joining from one open edge like this. And then back to the other open edge. Okay? You join the circumference together this way. Okay? Join together with 1/2 inch seam allowance. If you do your calculations correctly, there will be no excess or shortage, but if there's any excess, you can pleat along the waist circumference. But if you do your calculations correctly, you will not have any excess. There cannot be shortage, okay? You can only have excess but not shortage. But I bet with you, if you do your calculations well, there will be no excess. Everything will just mash up. So as you can see, we don't have any excess nor shortage, okay? So you can go ahead and then you weave the waist circumference, and that will be the end of the class. Sit wrap dress. As you can see, I'm trying to tie the belt. I love everything about the fit of this dress. It just suits me. Even the color is popping. Then I just quickly wrap up my head tie, you know, my normal head tie now. Wow. So I was trying to styling. Then after that, I just spray some perfume on my body. Then try to look at myself in the mirror and ensure everything is set. Yeah. Okay. This is after service today. So I decided to just stay back a bit and dance, like make some videos, you know. As per Sunday things now. This is me digging it and dancing. And this way we were just looking at me like, yeah, what's happening? Where is this girl that's like, cats. Praising my God, you know. This is me shaking it and digging it. Yeah.
And yeah, take some nice beautiful pictures, and yeah, that's it.